Joining me now, 22-year combat veteran and Republican South Carolina congressional candidate Alex Pelbath, and former Assistant Secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs and retired Colonel James Hutton. Gentlemen, welcome to you both. We can leave the historic deficiencies and lack of help for our veterans that the government-run health care in the VA has been infamous for in the past, well, for years now. Instead, let's just focus on what little is known about the shooters in North Carolina and Michigan. They were both Iraq War vets, and at least with one of these shootings, Christians, once again, are the targets. Your takeaways from this weekend's violence. Alex, you first.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Chris. What I'd say, one, got to be careful to not be jumping to conclusions, especially where we are in the nation today after the tragedy of Charlie Kirk. I don't believe these two are related. PTSD and what we have seen from the violent and rhetoric from the left are not the same thing. So if we want to address the PTSD issue with our veterans, that is a very important issue that we need to discuss. I think it's a completely separate issue, what we see on the left with the dangerous rhetoric that they're continuing to employ after the tragedy that was Charlie Kirk. So if these two incidents are veterans that are suffering from PTSD or had other motivations, I think it's something that we absolutely need to address. I live in a district that is overwhelmingly military, pro-military, a ton of veterans here, a fantastic VA hospital here. PTSD is a real issue. And Chris, if I could say one more thing, so I led the withdrawal from Afghanistan, that chaotic withdrawal. We haven't even begun to see the impact of that event on our troops. It is serving in the military and being in a combat role is always traumatic. But to leave the way that Biden had us leave Afghanistan with sort of a sense of failure, that is something that's going to also weigh heavily on all of our troops.
True enough, true enough. James, how are you reading the juxtaposition of these two former service members undertaking unspeakable violence in two different communities?
Well, I think it's a very real possibility that the two things are not related to each other for sure, but maybe not even related to their military service. So we kind of always jump to the conclusion that if some guy was in combat, that it made him crazy and he went out and shot up the place. But the vast majority of people with PTSD, assuming both of these guys had PTSD, don't kill people, and they don't even commit violent acts. So I think when we dig into their cases, especially the one in Michigan, he's of course he's deceased, but even Nigel Max, I think we're going to find out there's more there than a relationship to their military service and PTSD.
Now, you know what, guys, I'm with you on this because it's raising red flags for me how little we do know about their motivations. So we'll see where that all goes. But it does provide us an opportunity to have an examination of how we are taking care of our veterans in this country. And it's not like it's a new problem. It's not like it just started, 8 months ago with President Trump. There has been an issue with this collectivist mindset that is inside of the VA, government-run care, that many of us in the conservative movement have been observing, Alex, for many, many moons, is ill-equipped. Actually, every socialized medicine model is ill-equipped to achieve its mission. Can we afford to continue this dynamic inside the VA, or is it time to look at things a little differently to make sure that our service members, at the very least our service members, are getting the help they need?
Well, under the first... Go ahead.
That was for Alex. Go ahead, Alex.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It is time. And as important as it is to take care of our veterans who have already experienced PTSD, when we're not providing the care, I've had my own negative experiences with VA healthcare. What we're also messaging to the future force. Like, if we are going to continue to recruit the best and the brightest and train them, then we need to care for them long after their service is over. And I'll tell you right now, Chris, one of the reasons that I am running for Congress is to make sure that we continue to have veterans in Congress, in Washington, D.C., passing legislation that is going to help not just those of us who have already served and experienced traumatic experiences, but also the next generation. All we know for certain is that there is going to be more conflict.
Yeah, and James, to that last point, I just want to to make sure that we point out, you were very apt at pointing out that just because you have PTSD doesn't mean you're going to go nuts and start spraying bullets everywhere. All that being said, I mean, isn't the care of our veterans, isn't that something this nation universally, Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, liberals, Americans writ large, ought to be committed? That's one thing we've got to get right. No?
You're right. We absolutely owe it to those veterans. We owe it to the rest of the nation. But there's two facts. One is that the VA under President Trump and the first administration signed something called the Mission Act, and it allows veterans to go off outside of VA when we can't provide the care or it's taking too long to provide the care. And the other thing is this new administration, again, very quietly, you don't see a lot of fanfare around the VA, but the backlog of veterans waiting for VA benefits is down 45% after increasing 24% under the Biden administration. So whatever we are going to provide through the VA, we have to do better. And I think this administration is doing better. But you're right. There are sources outside the VA and outside the government that should be explored. And the Mission Act was first and foremost. And I would say that the Biden administration, they didn't like that so much. They had to adhere to it because it was the law. But right. I think that they've turbocharged it under the Trump administration.
Alex Pelbath and James Hutton, thank you for your service, gentlemen. Thanks for the time today. Straight ahead on the Chris Salcedo Show, folks, Israeli Prime Minister